Eventide Entertainment presents The Drive-In, hosted by Aaron Lopez. All right, welcome back to another episode of The Drive-In. I am here with this week's guest host, Nathan, a newer friend that met through Rock of Ages. He is one of the actors in that show. Last week you guys had Kara, who's playing Sherry, and this week you have Lonnie. Nathan, welcome to The Drive-In.
Thanks, happy to be here.
All right, so this week we're looking at blockers. I know this one came out a couple weeks ago by the time this episode drops, but one that I've been looking forward to seeing for quite some time, and actually went back and realized it's probably our first true pure comedy. We did Pitch Perfect 3, which is kind of a little bit more of a musical episode, and Disaster Artist, which kind of me and Jack talked about that quite a bit, and realized there's a lot more drama going on in that one than it seems. So this is kind of the pure comedy first time. So with that being said, Nathan, what are some of your favorite comedies?
Some of my favorite comedies. I would have to say off the bat that Will Ferrell, anything Will Ferrell does, I'm a fan of normally. So Anchorman is one of my go-tos. My favorite movie of all time is a rom-com, which is When Harry Met Sally. Okay. So,
have you ever been into Cat's Deli?
I've not. I've been to New York twice, and both times it was like on my list, but it was on no one else's list.
Yeah, and it's kind of out there. Like it's not really around a whole lot of other things.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, a buddy of mine flew me up to New York for my bachelor party, and that was one of the things he put on there. It's like we needed some food after one of the nights, and he's like, "We're gonna get on the subway. We're gonna go down and go to Cat's Deli." But yeah, it's a packed place.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh my god. Speaking of Will Ferrell, did you hear that he got into an accident?
No, I missed that.
So it was like a day or two ago, he was in an accident, an SUV car accident, and got taken to the hospital.
Wow.
I haven't heard anything like bad since then, so I'm
good,
sure he's okay. But yeah, that just happened. So hopefully we don't have any really bad mojo for discussing this, and then a few days it comes out and something bad's happened to him. So knocking on some wood here. But yeah, excellent. Yeah, we went and saw Blockers. Actually went and saw that today, and your specs on that, just real simple, starring Leslie Mann, John Cena, Ike Barinholtz, with a little bit of a cameo by Hannibal Buress for a little bit there. So we'll get into that in a little bit. For now, let's go ahead and check out our trailer rundown. We had 7 this time, 7 trailers for Blockers, and we started out with Action Point, I Feel Pretty, Life of the Party, Overboard, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Night School, and Upgrade. I had seen almost all of those trailers already, except for one of them. But for you, was there anything that stood out to you as ones you're ready to go see here soon?
I mean, most of the trailers were pretty just standard. Hey, this is going to be a comedy.
Yeah.
You get enough laughs, and it's hard to tell whether it's going to be good from a trailer. I'm not the biggest fan of Amy Schumer, so we'll see. Whether I go to that one or not.
Well, and that one, I worry about that because that's coming out, I'm pretty sure that comes out next week. Or no, that comes out the same week as Infinity War. Yeah,
they've thrown it away. They said this one's just...
It's just... And I think it's kind of a cool concept, and I think it's an important message kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but
sure, I agree.
I don't think it's going to do as well as they would have hoped.
Yeah. But I think, what was the last one? The Unbreakable? Or
Upgrade.
That one, I was caught off guard, and I was like, this looks really good.
Yeah. That was the only one I had not seen yet. And so basically, guys, if you have not yet seen the trailer for Upgrade, did not fit the rest of them. Even Ant-Man and the Wasp has some comedic aspects to it. But Upgrade was a action thriller, kind of a sci-fi. It's just really all over the place.
Like, guy gets a chip put in his body that can control him, like take over for him, and then
becomes a ninja. It's really interesting concept because he starts out the trailer basically being a quadriplegic and just he's never going to move again, and this guy walks into his hospital bed and said, I've got something that can maybe help you out. Basically just becomes a human guinea pig, and all of a sudden he can walk again, and he hears this computer chip talking to him. He's the only person. It's like an inner monologue, and about a minute into the trailer, he lets the computer chip take over, and then he's just a badass. Like, just has perfect, like, spidey sense, kind of just can intuition and take care and fight and just, kicking some ass. So, looks really interesting. I'll probably check it out.
I'll probably go see it. Yeah.
So, other than that, though, I mean, I've seen Action Point trailer. It's the same one I've seen from the first, and it still looks hilarious.
Yeah.
I was a huge Jackass fan growing up, so I think I'll definitely go see that one.
I'm sure I'll see that one too. I didn't watch Jackass growing up, but I've gotten into that genre recently, and it's funny.
Well, and there's a documentary on Hulu about I can't remember the name of it now, but it's about the magazine that started.
Right.
I think it's Big Brother magazine.
Yeah, the skateboarding.
Yeah, and it talks about how everything came to be and how Jackass came to be, but it focuses more on the magazine. It's not about Jackass, sure. But that's where Jackass started.
Yeah,
and so they really give you a lot of information. So, really, really cool documentary that gives like this whole idea of it's a bunch of guys that are just doing a bunch of stupid stuff, but they were doing what was fun for them,
right?
And they just happened to start videotaping it and taking pictures of it, and
people were enjoying that.
People caught on, yeah. So, but no, I think Action Point will be pretty funny.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be funny.
But yeah, Upgrade was the only one that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
I think Overboard looks dumb. I don't.
Yeah.
It's a remake, and it's a remake with Anna Faris, who I thought was done.
Right.
I haven't seen her in anything for a long time.
Plus, they're like, it's weird that they're doing like the gender swap. And then they're not, like, they're doing the gender swap at the beginning, and then they don't actually, like, do the gender swap.
Yeah.
Like, the second half of the movie is just the same movie.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you had this opportunity to do something cool, and they didn't.
Yeah, and that's the problem right now with Hollywood. You either get some really, really cool new ideas, or you're getting a ton of recycling.
Yeah.
Like, almost just painful recycling.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, yeah.
That looks pretty good. Actually waiting for a new trailer to come out because I've seen that one too many times now. Need something different.
Right, you need something to get you excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into the spoiler-free summary. This is very simple. With most comedies, there's not a whole lot. It's just there to make you laugh. 3 parents try to stop their daughters from having sex on prom night. That's it. That's it. Right to the point. So this is about the time of the episode where you guys get an opportunity to pause or skip ahead toward the end, whatever you need to do. But we're about to get into some spoilers. So if you want to go ahead and pause right now, we will see you guys in a little bit. All right, back at it. And now we've got everybody who has either seen the movie, likes to hear some conversation, or just wants to know what Nathan has to say, because we got a lot of people who listen to the podcast in the show, so they'll definitely be checking this one out. And Andre, here's your obligatory shout out before we get started. Hopefully you've seen Blockers, so you can see what we're doing. Otherwise, I know you'll be listening to it anyway. So we get a cold opening before they give us the title screen, and it's the first time that our 3 main girls meet. And the parents too. Yes. It kind of sets us up for the dynamic of the 3 teenagers and the 3 parents.
Right.
What did you think of the cold opening? Cena and Ike Barinholtz and their characters, and Leslie Mann actually with her as well.
I really liked the cold opening. I liked because it was very gives you this warm family I know what that's like. I don't have kids, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
I can remember my first day of school, and you have to make friends. And I was really impressed with how much character development they did before they got to the plot itself.
Oh yeah,
it was well into the movie. I feel before they introduced the MacGuffin, and were actually off, and so they did a lot of making sure you knew who these characters were so that you could relate to them or at least understand who they are.
Yeah, and I liked the home video aspect. Right. It was a very subtle motif that made its way throughout the beginning, a little bit in the middle, and at the end tied it up again too. But that was cool. A lot of character development, and going through, it's going to be, usually we do this chronologically, but it's kind of tough to do this movie chronologically because it jumps back and forth between the parents and the kids, and you kind of, even within each of those 2 groups, almost get subsections of things going on. So we'll do our best. But the cold, it was short for me. Usually I expect about a little bit longer before I see the title screen.
Yeah.
We got a lot of the home video after the title screen. Actually, all of it, other than just the initial one. One thing I was kind of I don't know if it's just me being picky, but the Julie, the Leslie Mann's character's daughter, she went from being terrified and sad and awfully just so upset 2, the kid comes up and says, like, Kayla, I think it was, and says, like, hi, how are you? And she's like, oh, I'm fine. And I'm great. Like, I don't remember. I didn't make friends. I made friends in a decent amount of time, but that was like, she walked up and they were best friends. Yeah. I was kind of caught off guard by that a little bit.
That's how meant to be it was, Aaron.
Yeah, right. And then the best part is you got Ike Barinholtz. In the movie, you have the 3 parents who are like, hey, that's my daughter, and here, I guess they're going to be friends. That means we're friends now. And Ike Barinholtz, you guys want to go get a drink?
No, seriously, you want to go get a drink?
And the whole time, like, that's all he says for, like, the next minute. And the other 2 are introducing themselves. Mm-hmm. But this is where we first get Cena crying.
Which is another theme in the movie.
It is. It's a theme of itself. And it's, I don't know what the couple next to me were saying, but every time he cried, they're like, oh, that's just real. That's real. like he's a good actor. I like him, but I don't think he was actually crying.
Oh, no. He was just making a face.
But yeah, his faces were great. Oh, yeah. They were awesome. So we'll talk about Cena quite a bit here, and everybody who listens to this podcast probably knows by now that I'm a wrestling fan. And here's my little plug: go listen to Top Rope Wrestling. But yeah, John Cena, I think he's going to be going the same route very soon as The Rock. Yeah, he's getting traction. He's doing really well. He's in good movies. He's not just in movies that are, throwaways. But he's also kind of becoming more of the comedian.
Yes.
Then The Rock did a couple of those, and he immediately went into action.
Yeah.
Actually, his debut was action with Scorpion King.
Right.
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah. He was in it for a little bit.
He was, yeah.
And then it was all CGI.
It was CGI, right.
But, yeah. So then we get our title screen, and this is where it kind of starts to get a little jumbled. They start developing the characteristics of all of the kids. So let's jump into Julie and Lisa. So they're very close. What did you think of the setup of their interaction and their relationship?
So it was very much definitely from the mom's perspective. You could tell. Mm-hmm. And they had the whole, they're the same exact person. Like, they wake up the same. Yep. They're doing everything in the morning. The morning routine's the same. But even throughout that, you were catching glimpses of the daughter, like, yeah, this
starting
is
to want some.
It was
some
right. Yep, we're together. And it was good. That was probably, I think, the most boring relationship for me was...
I'd agree, yeah.
The single mother with the successful daughter, who was just wanting to spread her wings a little bit, and the mother's being a little smothering.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of the... You could tell where that one was going to go.
Yes.
The other two were kind of up in the air, especially with Ike Barinholtz's character, Hunter.
Right.
It took a little bit before we knew what was going on in that sure. relationship.
Yes.
And, I mean, you could kind of see in the home videos what Cena and Kayla would be doing because of how competitive he was. Mm-hmm. But she was just as competitive, like right. in those. There wasn't anything that really gave that away. But yeah, I can definitely see that I was not as intrigued by their relationship, which is unfortunate because it was kind of the main one.
Yes.
It was the focal point of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you've got them, like Nathan said, we have this idea of they do everything together. And you guys have either been in these shoes, or you know someone who has, where you have this parent who doesn't want their kid to go too far away
right.
to college because they want to see on, they want to be close. And Julie has applied to UCLA.
Yes.
And it's important they make it very clear by showing many license plates that we're in Illinois.
Yes, they're in Chicago.
Like, we are not anywhere near LA, so UCLA is a big deal.
Yes.
So that's, we see that UCLA, we know UCLA is where Austin, her boyfriend, is going. Mm-hmm. That's kind of important to see here in a little bit. But it's kind of a stale dynamic. It's
very much the most, like, traditional mainstream plot thread of, like, helicopter parent.
Yeah.
Coming of age person wants to come of age on their own and spread their wings a little bit. And parents not letting that happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
not going to be disappointed if we don't talk too much about these two, except right. for the one or two, because there was probably the moment that I laughed the most in the entire movie did involve Leslie Mann's character. And I don't know why. We'll get to that later. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop laughing.
The entire theater cracked up.
Oh, it just was great. 'Cause I think it's just unexpected.
It was just out of nowhere.
Had such a like a real moment, and then this happened, and we're like, oh, we're not done with the stupid
It was just so unnecessary.
So we're gonna make you guys wait for that one. That's pretty far away. All right, so let's jump in and look at setting up Kayla, and I didn't even remember his name. Was it Marshall? But John Cena's character. So this one to me was probably the most non-traditional because of how many different ways it went. I don't know. Well,
sort of.
Yeah, the same way. I kind of take that back, but
right.
But what did you think about their relationship?
They seemed to have the healthiest relationship. Like going into it, he seemed like I was going to be all about his character. Perfect dad. Has a great relationship with his daughter and his wife, and these incredible understanding. Gets it. Super woke, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they kind of shifted that real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely embodied the stereotypical dad.
Yes,
he had khaki. He had khaki shorts on.
Khaki shorts with the shirt tucked in.
With his shirt, the button up.
Phone on the belt.
Yep, everything about him had this, this stereotypical dad,
constantly making fun of kids with long hair,
which I think is hilarious because, but yeah, it just was one of those where you knew. Going into the movie that Cena was going to play up the dad joke, that kind of aspect really well. But I thought one characteristic of his that I think it was good for the show, but I don't know if I bought it much, was kind of how almost dumb he was. Literally, I didn't feel that he had really pushed enough of it to make it believable, because I don't know. I don't know if it's ignorance, but he literally at one point thought that babies came from asses. It didn't seem like it was a joke.
It was. I think it was. They were trying to play up willful ignorance. He didn't want to think about any of that stuff.
I can see that.
Because the entire point, the entire conversation they have when they're trying to decipher the girl's text messages with the emojis, he's like, "No, that means they're loving." He's just trying. He's in denial. He doesn't want to believe that his little baby girl is becoming sexually mature.
You're okay. I'm okay with you. I could see that. I think that, it's there because any of those moments that he really got kind of almost tripping over his words were in those kind of sexual conversations.
Yes.
In some way, shape, or form. It was not, didn't trip over him in any other situation, I don't think. I don't think so. That would make sense. Very competitive. That tons of sports jokes throughout the whole movie, but really set it up. One of the first real funny moments of the entire movie was really in here. Mom is working on the bed, and he comes in with this these thong panties on.
Yeah, he had done the laundry, and he pulls out a pair of thongs.
It puts him on his face.
And he's talking about going muff diving and
paging Dr. Muff.
And the wife's just looking at it. She's just letting him do it.
That's the weird thing. Is she didn't immediately say, "Hey, no, stop." She let him go for a little while.
She tried to interrupt him, but she was not making.
I mean, it was not only enough that he had them on his face, but then he starts eating them. Yeah. And then she's like, "Hey, those are your daughters." And he's like, "Oh no!" And he throws them.
And and then that's when that's the first glimpse of protective dad stereotype comes out. And he's like, "No, these are not for protection. These are for easy access.
These are for speed.
These are for speed."
Yeah, I think that. Well, and then we keep going in there, and he goes into her room because he finds it's a filter to a cigarette in her pants as he's folding up some laundry, and he goes to her room. She's in the bathroom getting ready. And he goes to put some. He sees her I think it's a lacrosse helmet. Yeah. But he looks down, and in her top drawer, there's this pink little vibrating. Yeah. And immediately you're like, oh shit, we know what this is. But it's not. Just the toothbrush. Yeah.
Why she has it in her dresser, I don't know.
She's like, I was looking for that. Well, why would you? Yeah, why would you put that?
How did it get there?
That was just a misdirection because I'm like, yeah,
that was very much they wanted something to put there that wasn't actually what a vibrator. But...
Well, I thought it was going to be just like more of her underwear. Like they didn't go that route really.
Right. No.
But I think it's weird because like both Jordan and I have mechanical toothbrushes.
Right, yeah.
Like, we don't separate them and keep them in different spots.
Yeah, why would you ever take the base and put it in your drawer? Yeah.
Especially in your underwear drawer.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a misdirection. It was good for a joke. But then we start to see, their relationship and very, like we said earlier, competitively driven. He wants her to be the best athlete and the best just overall kid, and she's definitely bought into it. Yeah. She plays into it. She doesn't feel... at least I didn't get the impression that she felt kind of overbearing, like that he was overbearing.
No.
Didn't come across that way, at least.
They're definitely comfortable with each other, and they got along.
And then we had the last one, introducing Sam and Hunter. This one I felt was, to me, the most interesting. But I also think it was the one that was not played out enough.
It got the least airtime, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's probably because the studio didn't want to give it too much airtime because it was the weirdest. I'm gonna say.
Yeah. I mean, well,
it was the most dangerous for them.
It really was.
But I agree with you that it was definitely the most interesting.
Yeah, and I like that actress. I don't remember her name. I don't think I've seen her in anything else.
I don't think so.
Gideon Adlon is her name. I'm seeing if there's anything else that she's been in that I would have seen. She was in Girl Meets World, which I didn't watch, but I think only for one episode. She was in Criminal Minds for an episode.
So just like small parts here. There.
Yeah, she really. This is probably her breakout. Looks like a lot of TV series. This actually, I think, might be her very first movie. So that's why we haven't seen much of her. But she was good. She definitely played her role very well. Yes. Like it was believable.
Yes.
And we haven't really talked about it yet. But so it comes out that between her glances and Hunter's discussion later that she is at least curious.
Yes.
By curious, but definitely leaning toward feeling like she's a lesbian.
Yes.
And that's why I think, you're right, that it probably was... And it's not that it's a taboo thing. We just had Love, Simon. It's a movie entirely about coming out. But still, it just feels like for a movie like this, you don't want to...
There's a certain audience they're trying to hit, and they're not trying to make it a... staple. They're not trying to say anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's a good point. This is not a movie like Love, Simon, which was trying to give across a message.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's one of the ones that doesn't get a whole lot of airtime, but it also has the most real issues. You have a daughter who is a closeted lesbian. You have a split family, and you have an interracial.
Her mom is married now to a black guy,
Hannibal Buress, yeah. So a lot going on with those.
Yes.
Which, in comparison to the other two, they're very tame.
Yes.
So I think that's one of those. I think that's why I wanted more out of it. Is it had so much potential.
There.
Yeah, it would have been really cool to see more of it. But we see that these three girls, they meet at school one day. On prom, really the entire movie takes place on one day.
The day of prom,
which I always thought was weird because when you went to prom, did it happen on a Saturday or a Friday?
God, if I even remember,
because I have never until I moved to Saturday, Ohio ever heard of a Friday prom, and apparently it happens often. Huh. Like when one of the schools I taught at, they did it because they said, well, two reasons: it was cheaper to rent out the venue, which absolutely, but then also too. They said that then they kids would then be able to take like half the day to go get ready. I'm like, but then you're literally losing the entire day. No one's going to school or caring about school.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, so this clearly was a Friday because they were in school.
Yes.
But they go to the lunchroom. This is where we kind of start to feel the get the introductions to the sex pact. This concept.
That's where it happens.
Yeah, and this is where we start to find out some other things about some of the characters. What did you think about Kayla, Cena's daughter, her willingness to jump into this concept in comparison? Like, we know why Sam was hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
she was the one that I understood the least amount of how quickly she jumped into it.
I mean, I feel like it was just from a, like, almost because of how she was raised. She was so sure of herself the entire movie. She knew what she wanted the entire time. And she gets this, like, her friend's coming up and is like, hey, I'm going to lose my virginity tonight. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like a good time. Seems like as good a night as any to do it.
She's like, I'm in. We're like, oh.
Like, okay.
All right.
So, like, I'm going to do it with that guy.
And they start talking about how they're going to do it. And this was one of the things that started to get me. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna put rose petals and I'm going to put that Walgreens candle out that gets me horny. And and Kayla goes,
don't all Walgreens candles?
She's like, no, it's just that one. And she's like, oh, all candles make me horny.
Yeah.
True. Bath and Body Works. Mm-mm. That was funny. And it's just, you started to see the split in the friends. Sam didn't commit to it until later on.
Yes. She was hesitant.
She's very hesitant. And you see the other two like, we can meet up every year and like talk about it's our anniversary and have dinner at Olive Garden.
Yep. And this is the start of Sam's path of not wanting to lose her friends after they all leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes part of her whole plot line, is not wanting to be left out.
Yeah, and I think that like that's important because that night, like it jumps very quickly. Like they're in school, then all of a sudden, like immediately, that's right after. And I don't know if you got this impression, but okay. And this is a stupid thing to complain about. All three of the girls, well, Julie was probably the closest, but they didn't look like prom dresses.
Oh no,
they look like maybe Homecoming or Sadie's. Like prom dresses, girls go all out for.
Right,
and like, and I can kind of see like. Even with like Sam's was like almost like a Wednesday Addams kind of a look.
Yeah, that was I think the one, like she was sitting in her room before and then she gets called down and it's like, oh, that's her dress. Oh,
I thought it
just looked like she was just hanging out.
Yeah, that was weird. And that's where we also meet Hannibal Buress's character.
Yes.
And let me look up here real quick the mom's name because she's also been in a lot. Let's see here. I can't even remember her name right now. Ramona Young, I think. That doesn't sound right. No. She's been in a lot. She's actually one of the people who does another movie review podcast, How Did This Get Made?
Okay.
Really, really good one with Paul Scheer and the guy who plays and have you ever seen The League?
Yeah.
Rafi.
Okay.
Yeah. It's those three. So it's
can't pronounce his name yet.
I can't remember his well, because I'm just so used to him as being Rafi. But him, Paul Scheer, who's Andre, and then this girl. They do another movie review podcast. So you guys want to check it out? It's really funny. After listening to mine, of course. But yeah, so she's the mom, and she's this. I don't really get the relationship between her and Hannibal. It was just kind of like they're funny. Let's put them together and make them.
Yeah. They
parents.
They were not compatible. You had like Hannibal Buress trying to be like a good dad. Like he seemed like he understood what was going on, and he was just under the thumb of this crazy mom.
Well, in the conversation, he's having like a heart to heart like dad talk.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about like, I want your prom night to be as memorable as mine.
Right.
I don't remember the friend's name. It was like one of the friends signed up for the.
We got him to sign up for the army.
Yeah,
he went into the Persian Gulf War.
He died.
But
he died really quickly, and then it's like, okay.
He's like, but we're all friends because of that now.
Yeah, we remember that. And mom steps in saying like, oh, that's not what she's worried about. Like it seemed like they were gonna have like the sex talk with her.
Yes.
And it very quickly became like, oh no, she isn't. They don't care about that. They're more worried about her losing her friends, which makes me think like. What was the reason? Why did they think that? Because we see that, but it seems like it only comes out because she wasn't involved in the pact. I never really had any reason to think that the three of them were not like very
super
very good
close
friends.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea.
So
it's very clear that the movie just wanted you to feel like that was her whole problem, or maybe that's. I mean, her struggle was also with she had the two ones with. Losing her friends and then being a lesbian, closeted, and part that the being a closeted lesbian drove into her.
Yeah, they
her friends.
They fed into each other.
She was afraid it would break it up if she came out.
Yeah, I think I again, we keep going into this. It seems like we really wanted more out of this.
Yes.
This character, out of Sam's character. Yeah. Well, and then we end up at the before that we get to the pre-prom party, which I've never seen that before either. It's kind of weird. But we also have with Kayla coming down with John Cena doing the introduction. It was like the Bulls introduction. He's like coming down the stairs, 5'7", 5'9" in heels, like just this introduction, and she's all into it. Yep. And so it's like, yeah, she's pumped and comes down and
she's pumping her fist. She's into it.
Yeah, and she does the chest bump.
Yeah, he says high five's better next time.
Yeah, it's like immediately, and that plays into the whole like uncomfortable aspect of his with anything sexual.
Yes,
and she's like, oh, dress and. I like your dress. He's like, is it a dress?
It's not really a dress. It's missing. It's not a full dress. It's missing that little bit in the middle there.
Yeah, she's got like the midriff cut out of her dress, and it's like it's a 2-piece, and I think again, I never would expect to see something like that at a prom.
No,
it was a nice dress. We're not saying she looked bad, but just saying it was not as extravagant as the proms that I've seen. And then we have the. This conversation with Julie and Lisa, and they're getting ready for the party, and it's this idea of like, this is where we see that UCLA is probably a bigger deal for Julie than she had seen or she had said before. Mm-hmm. She comes home from school, she sees the acceptance letter to UCLA, and she's like excited, but also like immediately nervous.
Yes, she doesn't want her mom to know.
She hides it, and actually, it's one of the things that kind of pushes. Leslie Mann to actually be nervous about this whole night because it gets her anxiety going. Mm-hmm. But we get to this pre-prom party, and this is where we see Ike Barinholtz again for the first time since the beginning. He's coming down the street with
a limo. I can't remember what song was playing.
It was like Teo Cruz.
Yeah, it was Teo Cruz. He's got flares.
Oh, it was because he said, like, we're going to light it up like it's, instead of Friday night, it's prom night. He's like, get it? You get it? Mm-hmm. But immediately, everyone's like, oh, you invited Hunter. The kids are not, Sam's not excited. Happy. Yeah, Sam's not excited to see him. No one's excited to see him. When we find out, it's because he cheated on Sam's mom and with a babysitter.
Yes.
With the babysitter. But he's coming down with these, like, Roman candles in his hands, making this big entrance. And he's got this limo for Sam. It's one of the big driving forces of their relationship, mm-hmm. and him trying to gain not her trust back, but like have the focus be on them again. Maybe he can get her back if he gives her one really special. He wants to be
the father he wasn't.
Yeah. Which did you get in the timeline anywhere of where they broke up? Like,
no.
Yeah, it seems like it could have been 10 years ago. It could have been a year ago. It could have been 10 months ago. Like it
was obviously long enough for him to have been absent for a lot of her formative years.
Yeah. So early enough.
Yes.
Which I think is really good development, because with the fact that you have him asking for drinks, the first thing you really hear, you kind of get this idea.
He's a little awkward. And
yeah.
Not the best guy. And they introduce him and they keep that.
They do. They do.
Keep it going.
They definitely push that as one of his main characteristics the whole time.
Yes.
Okay, so then we have an awkward conversation between Hunter when he gets there and Sam, and then his wife and Hannibal Buress, and eventually it leads to the kids are all ready to go, and we find Lisa up in the room, and she up in Julie's room. Yes. And she sees the letter. Yeah. Why was she up there?
She went to go get her like scarf or something, or shawl.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure, because I thought she mentions that later, but I thought it was like almost like a way of trying to get her to mention UCLA. Right.
Because that's what she went up and grabbed that, and then the letter was like in the drawer underneath.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that.
And so I assumed that's what she was up there for. So
she sees the letter, brings the scarf down to her, and then you have the three parents kind of doing their thing. And this is again, it's so chopped up as far as like the movie was very smoothly tied together.
Yes.
But when talking about it, you see like everything happens in threes, everything, because they have to give
Each parent-child relationship has its own thing in each part of the movie. And then you also have the two different, you have like the coming-of-age movie and the adult idiot comedy happening simultaneously. It's pretty impressive how many like things they just kind of tied together into one movie.
And it did it. Like there were moments like here and there where I was like, that might have been a quick jump, but overall it was very well put together. For how many different storylines that they put into this movie, yes. I thought it was really smooth. The other three parents who are saying their goodbyes to the kids. The first one with the well, first off, we got to talk about Chad here. Chad and his fedora.
Yeah,
this fedora makes its way into many scenes.
It's Chad's entire character.
It is
his fedora. Like
if they would have not had this, Chad would have been easily forgotten. But he's one of those characters that you're like, I want to see more fedora. Well, that's funny too because one of the first times we see him is I think we see him at school, but the first time they really talk about him at this party. Ike Barinholtz was like, she deserves so much better than him. And like, I don't know. Chad's pretty good. Oh, no, Chad's fine. I like talking about Frank. So, but Chad's in this fedora, and he's just a dork.
He's your typical high school nerd.
Yep.
But with the self-confidence of someone who was not like the people I knew in high school.
Oh, yeah. No. He's a weird guy. And so there's a moment where Ike Barinholtz is trying to get a picture with his daughter. It's a kind of motif of his character of trying to get a picture with his daughter. Can I get a quick picture? Because he wants memories. He doesn't feel like he's made any memories. He doesn't. So he gets one with her, and she doesn't have any of it. And then he's like, "Can I get one with Chad?" And two,
they take like 3 or 4.
And one of them, he grabs a fedora, and he's like, "Maybe one like this, maybe like this." Yep. And then we get Connor, and it's important to remember. So Connor is Kayla's date, Cena's daughter. And he is. Well, you want to go ahead and describe him, because he's definitely not Cena.
No,
in any way.
He's super hippie. The first even shot of him is he's a stoner.
Oh yeah.
And they even play it up because they're they met in chemistry class, and then eventually later on you find out he makes his own drugs.
Yeah. Well, and the first time. It happens, I think, 3 or 4 times where he talks about, something of my own concoction.
Yes.
And all of these happen before he gets, deemed with the nickname The Chef.
The Chef, right.
Which I was I thought it was just, him being this kind of douchey, hipster guy. But no, it's actually something he really does a lot of.
Yes.
So he's got, the man bun, the pierced ear. He's kind of, scrawny.
Scrawny, yeah. Just super laid back. He's got a smirk on all the time.
The smirk,
which is something that comes back.
See, it feels like they spent an hour putting together one movie, and then we're like, okay, take all of the pieces from it, and then just keep putting those on. Because it wasn't bad, but the smirk comes up a lot. You have the picture, like we just said, take a picture. Mm-hmm. All these little things come up so often.
Yes.
But they had to have introduced them well for them to make sense. Mm-hmm. And up to this point, they had. So, but his smirk, he goes and he gets into the car and he gives him a handshake.
Yeah, he's really friendly. He's not intimidated by John Cena.
No, which he should be.
Yes.
It's funny because you see the size of these two guys together, and Cena's a big guy to begin with, but holy hell! This guy's he's about the same height, if not a couple inches shorter. But he's a shorter, but just tiny. So he gives him a handshake. He's that's an intense handshake,
real firm, professional, and slaps his shoulder. He gets in the limo, and John Cena's just what? I didn't intimidate him. That's supposed to be my dominance, and it didn't work.
It doesn't at all. He's like, you guys have a good night too. You guys enjoy the night as well. And then we get to kind of what's driving the rest of the plot. Lisa comes down. She's really desperately trying to get Julie to say
that she's going to UCLA.
Yeah, that UCLA's in the game.
Yes.
And she's like, yeah, I know. She gives her the shawl. She's like, yeah, because we're in Illinois and Chicago. And it gets cold, unlike other places. And she's like, yeah, it's kind of warm though today. I'm not gonna. Mm-hmm. And she's not picking up on the hint at all.
No.
But she gets in, and you can see the terror and the anxiety on Lisa's face.
Yep.
And the car drives away. And this is where we get one of my favorite characters. And I don't even remember his name. It doesn't even matter.
Limo driver.
But we have the limo driver Oh my god, his character. He's only in it like 3 scenes.
He's hardly in it at all, but he's really good.
But oh my god, I'm trying to see if I can find him because his character was just. He basically was there to get the kids. You know, he was not even a secondary character.
No, he was. He was a prop almost.
Oh, I can't find him here, but yeah, he was not that important really at all. But he does have some really funny lines. The first one, he puts down the divider and he's like, "Gotcha," because the kids are having champagne. He's like, "Oh no, I'm cool." He's like, I got crushed, or he's like, my leg
got crushed under a cement mixer. Yeah.
He's like, so I couldn't dance, but spend the rest of my life making sure that kids have a good prom night. I was like, okay, all right. And then he's like, all right, we'll see you. He puts it up. He's like, shit, that was the turn. Twist the turn. And he just cuts off. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like this guy. But as they're in the limo, they start texting each other, and this is where the emojis, which was kind of the major marketing of this entire movie, was like the emojis.
Yeah.
This starts to come into play. So what I wanted to, as we're kind of looking at this, what is your favorite, and this has nothing to do with the movie, what is your go-to emoji? Like, you will use this one more often than not.
Man, I don't use emojis very much. So,
that's probably a good thing.
Probably smiley faces.
Just a regular smiley face?
I can check my phone.
I know, I'm going through it right now so I can start to look and see. But yeah, I think it's funny because there were ones that I did not realize.
Just, who uses that?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the first ones that they talked about, the tree one means weed. I'm like, okay, I can see that. But the 2 hands, I did not know that, and I've heard Yas Queen.
Yas Queen.
I mean. Yeah, Nick does that from time to time. Nick from you guys heard him on Love Simon and Pitch Perfect 3. He'll do that for time. I'm like, okay, cool. But I didn't know there was an emoji for it. I don't know, when they came out with the clown, I used that probably way more often than I should.
I use the cry laughing face all the time.
Okay, the regular, the tilted, because it's
the normal,
the
normal straight up.
I have to say, I and this is a little off topic, but good on Apple for inclusion. Everyone doesn't have to be yellow looking through here. But yeah, they do pretty well. I just do yellow because, it's, I don't know. It's The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Everybody's The Simpsons. But yeah, and I think that I still thought it was the most amazing thing ever. The peach made its comeback. We actually had I don't know if you guys are aware, but Apple changed their peach emoji for about 2 days before they finally changed it back, because the second one, the new one, didn't look like a butt anymore. No. But now it's back, and it's
a butt again.
It is a
back
butt
in its former glory.
But yeah, I think that it's a funny part where he's like, how do you not know Yas Queen? And I will watch Ike Barinholtz cry out Yas Queen all day. I think he's hilarious.
He is funny.
But this is where we have the OK sign and the finger.
Eggplant.
The eggplant comes up. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, if they had any others during this. The water droplets.
Oh, yeah.
The quote.
The quote.
Water droplets. And see, we are using quotes correctly here. Cena's character
does not use quotes correctly.
And that is what I'm surprised they didn't drag out more.
It happened twice, and it was...
They did,
really funny joke.
They did it early in this movie with when they're seeing the laptop, and he's like, Kayla, and he puts the air quotes, Connor, and she's like, you're not using
those right. His name is actually Connor.
Yeah, and he does it again. I can't remember what he does it for, but he does it it's not later in the movie for all of the times.
In this scene, and maybe one other scene real close.
I really wish they would have, because that was funny. But this is where the plot kind of drives. We have this idea where they go in, they see the laptop. Hunter's in Julie's bathroom.
For some reason.
I don't get it.
They had to get in there somehow.
He's coming out. Oh, your mac and cheese.
They mentioned the mac and cheese, which Cena had also mentioned, because Cena's doing the dishes.
Well, and did you get the impression from this too? Is Cena a stay-at-home dad?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Because the wife is always working and always has her headphones in, is probably talking to someone all the time.
Well, and there was some weird things with Cena That was one. It seemed like, because he was doing all of the household chores, which made you seem like, okay, he's a stay-at-home dad.
Yes.
The other thing was the relationship between him and Leslie Mann was weird.
It was a little awkward.
And like, I mean, we can jump around a little bit. What did you think of that? Because we see it early on, and he mentions it at that pre-prom party.
Yeah, the first time. I've been texting you. Like, I had to burn that hot yoga Groupon because you didn't get back to me. Yeah, the 2-for-1. And it's there, and it's like him, like, concerned about this friendship that he doesn't have with her, even though he wants to, clearly.
Yeah,
and it keeps coming up, and then it concludes eventually that they're like, yeah, we can be friends.
Yeah.
And it was weird.
I got the impression, like, the way it felt was like he missed her and he wanted to hang out with her, but it almost felt romantic.
It had that romantic undercurrent, yeah, for sure.
Which would make sense.
Because they didn't play up the romance between him and his wife hardly at all.
Oh, no. Not until the very end.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
Quite literally.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought it was weird that we had this impression, like, she's a single mother, that I can understand, but he was in a very healthy, happy relationship. Yeah. So it really was only about the friendship.
Definitely.
But it didn't feel that way.
No.
So I was I'm glad I wasn't the only one who picked up on
it was definitely a little awkward. So you could tell that it was not intentional, but it was...
Yeah, I just think it was the way he played it.
Yes.
Because it was more from him. Because she was like, "Oh yeah, just give me a call sometime." It's like, I have. It's clearly not working. It's not the form of communication to get the job done. So yeah, they see these emojis and they're like, "All right, no, this can't happen." And all three of them, well, eventually all three of them, but Cena and Mann's characters, they
are instantly like, "We got to stop this."
Yes,
our precious daughters, and you have Mann who is remembering how this happened to her because she had something similar where she fell in love, quote unquote, with someone and ran off, I think, to tour with who was it?
Well, he mentions Dave Matthews, man.
Yeah, Dave Matthews.
It's the grilled cheese girl, and it's funny if you've ever. I haven't, but I have a friend who has gone to Bonnaroo specifically. But if you go to any of these music festivals, there's always people making grilled cheese and selling for like $2.
Yes,
everywhere. So that's And I'm a huge Dave Matthews fan, so when Ike Barinholtz goes, he's not even touring right now. He's taking. I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah. But and so she has like that regret, and then you have Cena who has these sexual hang-ups, trying to be like uber dad to his daughter, like protect her from this act because she's innocent and whatever, and doesn't want her to lose her innocence.
Yeah,
and Ike is having none of it.
Yeah, Ike Barinholtz does not have any worry at all because he says that he's like, well, I'm not worried about Chad. Sam's gay. And they're like, oh, she came out to you? I'm like, no, you just have this intuition. He knows.
I'm her dad. I know.
Yeah, and so he's not worried. And
he's even trying to stop the others because he's like, you're going to ruin my daughter's night.
Yeah. By
intervening in this, and also, who cares?
Yeah, he's like, they're kids. It's what teenage girls do.
Exactly.
And this is where we start to see, and there are a lot of these that happen, but the concept of the double standard was huge in this movie.
Oh yeah.
I would have never expected a movie that is referring to cock blocking to really hit on so many like real social issues. But the one about the double standard really was the one that I thought was probably the most well done.
Yes.
At least in depth.
It was definitely the point of the movie.
Yeah. And this is kind of one of the first ones where he's like, he's very much supportive of if his daughter wants to go and do whatever, she can go and do whatever. But it's not until he sees Sam at the dance where he actually is like, okay, I need to stop this.
Yes.
Sam goes and well, actually, we need to introduce another character before this. We have, we'll remember her name. Oh, maybe not. The girl with what was it? The cape.
Oh yeah, she got introduced during the lunch scene. I can't think of her name, but the one that Sam is interested in.
Yeah, Sam is very much interested in her.
Looks over at her during the lunch scene and like focus goes in on her. Like the rest of the scene gets blurred out and music starts playing. It's like very typical. Like, oh, Like, she likes this girl.
Yes. This is, Angelica was her name.
Okay.
Played by Ramona Young. Random person. I've never seen her in anything else. But she, it was kind of a weird character. She, seemed to be more dressed, not necessarily cosplay, but more, I don't know, like she had like a headdress and she had
the headband, she had a cloak.
She had like the gems in her around her face.
Yes.
Like things you would see someone dressing up in a costume rather than but she's very comfortable. Like she wasn't a weird, awkward character by any means.
She was just expressing herself.
Absolutely. And Sam's interested in her and she has a conversation with her at the dance, where she's like, who are you here with? She's like, just my friends, me and so broke up. And it's, so you find out at this point, Angelica is she's out. And she is lesbian.
Yes.
And she's single now. So this is kind of where Sam's like, oh, maybe. But she asks her, like, how did you know? Like, or how does one become not confused or not, like, and basically, like, how do you know if you're gay or not is kind of what she's asking her. And Angelica refers to having kissed somebody and being grossed out by it, but then she refers to holding a penis and it
dead snake,
like it's a dead snake. And I was like, oh okay. But it's funny. This kind of drives this idea that okay, Sam's going to figure out if she's gay or not, or like she's going to figure it out by sleeping with Chad tonight.
Yes, and that becomes her goal.
Yeah.
And Ike's character,
Hunter,
sees them kiss at the dance and is worried that she is going to be pressured into doing something she doesn't want to do because he is aware, he understands who she is by just parental instinct and doesn't want her to get hurt.
He even sees her reaction after the kiss. Like she's clearly not into it.
Doesn't want it.
So he thinks that Chad is kind of pushing the envelope with her.
Chad is pushing. He thinks her friends are pushing too because he gets mad at the parents for raising.
That's right. Yeah,
raising kids that would pressure his daughter into doing something like that.
And so okay, we jump to the dance. They get to the dance, and this is where we see, I believe, the first of many asses, which I thought was kind of funny. Like the kids in the car having sex in the parking lot before when
Ike's telling them that you don't have to worry about it. It's not like it's just prom night, and then there's a car bouncing.
If we see the shaking car first
in the background.
I thought that was great. And then you see his ass up against the window. So they rush in, and as they're rushing in, the group decides to leave. They're like, "It's dead," and I'm like, "Prom tickets are not cheap. Like usually they try to offset the cost of the venue. Most of the time it's like at least $50. They said that it was like 80 something. It's like, was this worth $85? And I was like, you paid $85 to go to a prom?
Right?
Like shit. I think mine was like 20, and I thought that was overpriced.
Yeah.
But so they leave and they're going to go to the lake house. And this is where, like we said, Ike Barinholtz sees Sam kissing Chad, and he even sees them leaving.
Yeah, he sees the other two leaving with their boys and doesn't say anything. Yeah,
because there's that smirk on his face where he's like, all right, let's go look for the kids, even though he knows they're not there. So they decide to leave because kids aren't there, but they don't know where to go. So they're thinking, well, they do. They think
it's Austin. Amy?
Yeah,
Austin's house, which is the main girl's
Julie's boyfriend.
Julie's boyfriend, and they said, "Hey, that's where off after prom is."
So they go there.
Yes.
Oh man. So this was funny. And it's a quick shot, which makes it even better. So they get there and they're like, the music's really loud and they ring the doorbell, nobody answers. So they go to the window and they're like, oh, hey, there's a window. And Ike Barinholtz looks immediately and he's like, okay, don't look inside this window. Yeah. And how true he was. Because they both look and then it's for like maybe 1 second. It's a quick shot. But you see a dress bent over, like someone in a dress bent over, and a guy pretty much mounting this lady wearing a dress.
Yes.
And you get a little bit of balls. It's the first, and sadly, it's not our only ball shot of the night. And it's like, because you weren't expecting that. No. You thought like maybe you would see people like under covers or something. I don't know. Yeah. You don't expect a man's asshole and balls to be presented to you, and they were absolutely there. Up front. And they're like, oh my god, because it's a red dress or the reddish pink dress.
Yeah,
they
think
it's
dress.
Julie's dress.
It's similar to Julie's dress.
So they think that. It's not. It's Austin's parents, which, oh my god.
So they stop. So Ike says, I've never gotten to see someone else have sex.
Yeah.
And so they're watching, and then they're like, no, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. John Cena's like,
he's in
perplexed. He's just staring at this. And then he locks eyes with the dude who's played by
Gary Cole.
Gary Cole.
Oh, yeah.
And they lock eyes, and Gary Cole proceeds to finish, and John Cena is traumatized.
He's like, we locked eyes, and then he finished. But it's just like, and this was another one of John Cena's faces. Like, you see his face, and he's like, he's terrified.
Yes.
But he can't look. It's one of those things you can't look away.
Yep.
And then immediately he's like, oh, they're coming out. So they come out, and they're like, oh, yeah, we just did a little role play. And these are...
A little prom night role play.
Yeah. And they're very open about it. They don't care. This is not a problem to them.
You saw us doing something normal. Like, who cares?
And they're like, well, the kids aren't here? And they're like, oh, no, they're at the lake house. Yes. Like, what lake house? So this is where you start to see the development of the relationship between Julie and Lisa. Because the other kids really the other parents don't seem to really care as much, but she wants to know why her daughter lied to her.
Yes.
And they won't give it up. They're saying, well, I'm not going to betray Austin's trust.
Right. If your daughter didn't tell you, there's a reason.
Exactly. Which, to me...
They have the relationship with their son.
Yeah.
That Lisa wants to have with her daughter.
That she thinks she has. She thinks she does.
Yes. Yeah. And they have a very open relationship, and they talk about how, oh yeah, he knows we're doing this.
Yeah. He's like,
we tell him about our prom night.
Tell him about prom night, and I don't think the guy who played Austin really was, I don't want to say is disgusted, but is at least even off-put by it.
No, I mean, and if that's what you were raised in, like,
I guess, but
if that's what's around you all the time, I guess that's what normal is. I can't imagine it.
No, I don't want to imagine it. So they decide, all right, so they are going to, they need to find the address. They need to figure out the address. And immediately Cena's like, oh, I think it's Marcia's his wife's name, or Martha or something like that.
She did the bathroom.
Marcy is it. And she's like, hey, yeah, tell her the address. Because she took care of their house. So they're going to go back and try to get the address. So I think that this is a kind of a shift, because after this we go to the lake house and everything like runs together. So we're going to take our quick little break here. So this is time for you guys to go and refill your soda, your popcorn. Let's all go to the lobby and see what is coming up soon from Eventide.
If there's one thing that's true about wrestling fans, it's how much they like to talk about wrestling. Join Aaron Lopez and Ben Norsworthy for the Top Rope Wrestling Podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Tune in every episode and be ringside as these two break down all of the big matches in the world of professional wrestling. Brought to you by Eventide Entertainment. You know, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company.
Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes.
All right, welcome back. We had just talked about where we have the parents who are out looking for their kids. They go to Austin's house. They find it. They're at the lake house. So now they're going back to Cena's house to get the address. And this was a funny part. For me, this is the scene where we really get the double standard push the most.
They talk about it.
They
explicitly talk about it.
They absolutely call it out, which I think was really important. And it makes a really good point. I kind of wanted your insight into this, because we're not talking about the movie per se, but the Marcy, the mother of Kayla, John Cena's wife, is very upset when she finds out, like, you guys are trying to stop your daughters from having sex. Like, right. It's natural.
Yes.
We've raised them well.
They're smart. They're smart, independent women. They're not going to do something stupid.
Exactly. But she talks about how it's this idea that if it were a guy, would you care? No. And that's true. Like, in our society, if a girl loses her virginity, it is a loss of innocence, like they say. And for a guy, it's an accomplishment.
Yes.
So, like, what are your thoughts? Like, I mean, it's not saying, like, you're, like, put you on the spot, but, like, like, what are your thoughts on the whole double standard? Because it's a pretty big motif in the movie, the theme of the movie.
It is a motif. I mean, I very much support liberation. Like, I am in support of these girls being able to do what they want. And in my mind, I was approaching it from, like, a media standpoint, because this is, like, the first time, like, you have a whole catalog of teenage boys coming of age, Porky's, which is, like, super aggressive up to, like, super bad, more recent things. And it's like, you have this whole catalog of just, like, comedies about boys trying to have sex in high school. And this is the first thing I can think of where we're have it happening from the girls' point of view.
Primarily. I think there's been some where, like, the girl goes for it, but she's one of many. It's all about high schoolers. Like, this is about the girls. This is
about the girls trying to have sex. And I think that in and of itself speaks volumes about, hopefully, the direction our society is progressing.
Yeah.
Because someone says it at some point in the movie, like, why is sex such a big deal?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's this cultural hang-up from Puritan and the culture we have.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's like this conservative society.
Yes.
And it's not, like, globally. I mean, we definitely don't see it in... Well, you see it in some countries outside of America, but it seems like it's, you know, for a country that's progressive, at least in human rights and all these other aspects, that's one that's still kind of very taboo.
It's very taboo.
So, yeah, I agree to that. I think that, you know, we need to... I hope we get more of these types of of these movies. You know, for me, I thought it was really cool. Like when we talked about, like, Love, Simon, whereas, like, we really haven't seen a movie like this before.
Yeah.
And cock blockers or blockers, I still can't refer to it as just blockers.
It feels weird.
But Blockers is a movie definitely that really kind of seems to push that envelope and say, like, we need to be okay with girls wanting to experiment and to learn things. And it's even at the beginning of the movie, Kayla makes this idea of, like, you can't get mad at me for trying new things. You can't teach me not to try new things, because trying new things is how I learn.
Yes.
And that's really, like, you know, and I, again, like you said earlier, I'm not a parent either. I'm a teacher, so, like, I'm always looking out for my kids. But at the same time, like, I'm going to let them screw up. I have no problem with a kid failing. I have no problem with a kid making a mistake. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to learn something from it.
Right.
And, you know, I think the double standard is that you always have this idea that, you know, males are conquering figures in society. And if they have sex, then it's a conquering of something.
Yes.
And women are the damsels in distress to be conquered. And I think movies like this are going to hopefully at least start the conversation to get away from
perspective.
So we can hope.
Yes.
And that's that whole interaction. And it's not as deep as we just made it. It's talked about. It is a little bit of a back and forth, and it's not an angry fight, but between Marcy and Lisa, they're kind of arguing about it, and Hunter's just sitting there and, like, hey, so not to get off topic here, but we need the address. Like, everybody's like,
keeps bringing it back up.
We don't want this social discussion. Cena breaks away. He finds the address, and then I heard you say it too. So Lisa starts to, like, get emotional.
She goes on another, like, she had done it earlier, done this soliloquy about her, like, her past and doing the whole Dave Matthews thing.
Yep.
And then she's doing it again, but she's doing the plot of The Notebook.
Well, and yeah, she says, my
mom was intercepting his letters, and I wouldn't get to see him.
And then he built me a house in the rain. And then it was right before she said that, and you're like, Notebook. I was like, oh shit, yeah. And then they left, and it was like, they're not going to call attention to it. And then they do on the way out.
They explicitly say,
like, was that the Notebook? Oh, I thought that was hilarious.
Yes.
They get the address though, and this pushes us to the lake house. This essentially, there's really, again, the girls split up to go do their thing. Seems like Julie gets the closest to actually closing the deal. Kayla is just all about doing the drugs. She's getting herself drunk and high.
She's experimenting. She's doing exactly what she wanted to be doing.
Exactly. So she's in a room with Connor. Julie and Austin are in a room, and they've got like the candle. Is that the candle that makes you sick?
Is that the candle that gives you hives?
Oh, yeah,
it's
hives.
the other candle.
No, it's the other candle. And he's like, oh, okay. Oh. And so they're there, and then I think the best part, you got Chad who's sitting by the pool on like by the pool, not in the pool, on one of these inflatable rafts. Mm-hmm. And then Sam just is like, we're gonna do it right here, and she's drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Yeah, she's like, all right, we're gonna figure it out.
Yep. Don't you want to be more special than this? She's like, nope, right here. And that's really it. Those are the three. The focus is shifted more so to what's happening in front of the house, which I really, really wish they didn't give this much away in the trailers, because there really wasn't a ton more to it than what you've seen in the trailers, but still one of my favorite parts. This is where we do find that Connor is the chef. It's the nickname because he basically cooks drugs into anything. And at this point, we know that Kayla is really they even threw the CGI.
They did the like eyes dilating, zoom in.
So she is tripping at this point. And we have Cena who's out front trying to get into the house. The only way they'll let them into the house is if they win a chugging contest. If you guys see the trailer, you kind of know what comes next. But this is the butt chug scene.
Yes.
Walk us through it, because it's funny as hell, but I just,
So they're standing by the tub, the kiddie pool full of beer, and John Cena's like, all right, let's do it. I can definitely chug better than you, high school kid. And he's all about it. They go bring out some beer bongs, funnels with tubes.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, let's do it. And the one kid starts pulling his pants down. He's like, whoa, we're just chugging beers. There's no need. He's like, no, we're butt chugging.
Butt chugging.
And John Cena's all of a sudden not about that. Because nothing is going up his ass.
Yeah. I'm tapping out. I'm tapping out. I can't
do it. You can do it. Yeah. You can do it. You had a baby. You're all loose down there.
She's like, and even even I knew that. Like, I knew that's not where they come from. That was hilarious.
Yeah, and then she's like, "No, you said you'd do it." And then they're trying to convince him, like, this is your daughter. Do it for your daughter. And eventually, Leslie's like, "Listen, I've had a couple things go up. It's easy. You just gotta breathe and relax."
Yeah. He goes, "You do me a favor. You lube it up a little bit."
He's like, Ike's character says, "I'll spit on it." He's not about that.
No. And she's like, I've got some lip gloss. And immediately he turns around and he's like, okay. And she's like, I don't have lip gloss.
Ike just spits on it.
And this is, okay, I saw way more of Cena's ass in this movie than I ever thought. And I thought, I'm still surprised that they got away with doing this much with it, because he's still under contract. And I'm like, wrestling, WWE is still kind of family friendly. So I'm like, I don't think they'd let him show this much. No, he's got his pants down. Well, it's kind of funny too, guys. So they have the moment where they actually insert the tube.
Yep.
And we find out the kids are not.
No.
They're not. He's got his finger on the hose behind him. And my favorite line of that whole scene is he's like, all right, they got lagers and IPAs. Which
one do you want? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
What doesn't matter?
And he does, then he grabs a 40, and they start pouring, and he's like, it's not working. It's not working. You gotta let it in.
You gotta relax. You gotta let it in.
Eventually, he does. And this was, you knew it was coming, because you're like, okay, you gotta make sure that you don't want the smirk, and they keep referring to the smirk.
Yeah.
You want the smirk to be, on top of your daughter, and they're really just pushing him. Mm-hmm. And he starts chugging beer. And then the cops show up. And this is the part I wish they wouldn't have showed in the trailer.
Because it was hilarious.
But you've seen the trailer.
It's not. It was lessened. It was diminished by the trailer.
Because and I think they could have gotten away. But it did the job, because that scene alone in the trailer made me want to go see this movie. But yeah, so the cops come, and immediately he's like, "What, cops? I can't. What?" And then beer shoots out,
but goes back the other way up into Ike's face.
And then the famous line, "Ass beer. I got ass beer in my face." And so the kids they all run away, and this was weird. I was like, okay, the cops were there, but they didn't even get out of their car.
The cops weren't there. There were lights flashing.
Yeah, that was it.
There was no. You never saw cops. You didn't see anyone getting arrested. There was a lot of time for conversations that were happening,
and a lot of conversations did happen. Like it.
Yes.
And okay, so you've got the parents run away. Cena's still got the tube up his butt. Kids are all running out, and they eventually all get into the limo. The limo driver too. There were like three things that got me. This is one of them. So the limo driver tries to do the
Dukes of Hazzard. He's running up the limo. Dukes of Hazzard just tries to jump on the hood and doesn't.
Tries to slide, and he doesn't get enough, so he just basically hip checks the top of the front of his car. And he's like, I hate the racist show anyway. And it's funny because he's like, not on my watch. He wants the kids to have a good time. Yeah,
he's still all about the kids having a great prom night.
And so they all go away, and at this point it's important to remember Sam has been drinking just shots worth of Jack Daniels. And they see the limo driving away, the parents do, and they're like, oh, we gotta go, we gotta catch up with them. But not before Ike Barinholtz requests to go to the hospital because he's got ass beer in his face. He's like, I gotta go to the hospital. He's like, what are you talking about? But yeah, so they get into their car, they go ahead and start driving, and this is where we see drunk Cena, which he didn't play it very well.
It's not great.
It was so fake.
It's funny though.
But knock knock. what was the joke? Knock knock. Who's there?
I don't remember.
A winner, or winner.
Something about winning. The girl, Leslie Mann's character says something about I'm a winner.
Yeah,
or it's a winner.
It's a winner ready to do something, and then Cena just starts busts up laughing.
Yeah.
Which I love the aspect of him getting. I really wish they would have played up bigger of him being drunk, because like I have heard this before. I will go on the record saying that I have no personal experience with butt chugging, but I have definitely heard about it. Of like it is actually supposed to get you drunker quicker.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
And I've like heard of things of like soaking a tampon with
vodka.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay,
You're crazy.
I'll believe you. I really wish they would have played that up more.
Yeah,
because it wasn't as believable. It was funny that he was drunk.
And it was only for this little bit in the car.
It was the only part of the car scene that did that. So that was kind of a letdown. But they're chasing, and not even really chasing. Ike Barinholtz is talking about, he's like, have you ever seen the Fast and the Furious? And for me, I've only seen like a few of them, but no one laughed at this joke. And she said, I've only seen the Tokyo Drift one and the one where
The Rock punches a torpedo.
Yeah, he's like, those are the only ones that matter. I have not seen any of the ones with The Rock, but I know the Tokyo Drift one sucked.
Yes.
And so no one else laughed at that. I think that was a joke. I don't know.
I have no idea.
But
not a franchise I follow.
I've seen the first one, I've seen the third one, and that's it. Because I thought the third one, the Tokyo Drift one, was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And I saw it with friends. It sucked. And I haven't seen any of the other ones. But I know that was probably supposed to be a joke. No one in the theater laughed at it, though, so completely lost. But he's trying to get her to ram the back of the car, but just a little bit. Just
kiss it.
Just kiss it. And the sequence where she's driving up and she like turns her shoulder into it like she's okay, and then she's like, "Did I do it?" She's like, "No, you didn't even touch it." And at this point, we need to jump over to the limo.
But yeah, what's been happening in the limo this entire time?
And Sam's not feeling well. Clearly, drinking a bottle of Jack.
We'll do that to you.
Absolutely. And so she starts throwing up on Chad, who just starts he's just screaming. So she starts throwing up, which gets everybody sick because it's like the Wayne's World. If you puke,
I puke.
Yeah, right. If you hurl, I'm gonna hurl, and then we'll all be blowing chunks.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And it was I don't know, they had a budget with this movie, and I think they used it all in CGI because it was very fake puke.
It was very
It was funny. But then you have the limo driver who starts throwing up too. He's like, that smell back there, and he throws up. Yeah. Everybody's puking in this car, in this limo. And Sam comes out of the back.
The skylight.
Yeah, the window. And she just pukes right onto the car, which throws them off. And they spin out, and then physics.
End up standing vertically in a ditch with the car facing downwards.
Like, literally vertical in his car. It's like, I know this is a movie, but...
I'll suspend my disbelief, but only so much.
And it's funny, though, because their reaction is what you would expect.
Yes.
Like, they're literally is, how the hell is this happening?
Yeah.
And Cena's face in the back of, like, the, oh shit, how is this, like, what's going on? And Ike Barinholtz, everyone tip back at the same time. I know this will work. Like, we'll all lean back at the same time, the car will flip backward. They do it, and the car flips
Inevitably
forward.
It flips forward.
And it was like slow motion, almost.
Yeah.
And then Cena goes, well, there's the rest of the ass beer, because it's now rushing to his head. And they get out of the car. I don't know how they get out of the car. I mean, yeah. They get out of the car, and now we see the kids that are changing. And this is where we have another one of those, like, kind of serious moments. The car tips, they get out of the car, and now we have this phone call because the kids are changing out of their clothes. She turns on her phone to see, and she realizes her mom's, Julie is. She sees that her mom's been texting her, calling her. She's missed a lot. She's like, my mom's pissed. We all have been in the situation where you miss, like, 10 calls from a parent, and you know your life is over.
Yep.
And so her reaction, I was like, good. Like, yeah, you're not going to ignore your mom. She calls her, and she basically, Lisa's trying to goad her into lying to her. And she does. She lies. She's like, I know you're lying. I know you're not where you say you are. I know about UCLA. I know about everything. Yes. And the guys in the background, Ike Barinholtz and Cena, they're cheering. They're like, yeah,
you're getting her.
And all of a sudden they shift because she starts going into, like, you're gonna make the same mistakes, and I don't want you. And they're like, oh no, don't go that route. But then basically we have this phone call that ends with,
oh, you think I was a mistake?
Yeah, Julie having this kind of, like, reaction of it wasn't what she meant, but it came across enough. Like, I essentially, if I were to have a kid right now, like you had a kid, I'd be going through the same mistakes that you did.
Yes.
And she's like, and this is where also we find out UCLA was not for Austin. UCLA was for Julie.
Austin is following Julie to UCLA.
Because Julie wants to get as far away from her mom as she can.
Yes.
Which is a big swerve. We didn't really see that coming. So, the phone call, then she hangs up on her, and you can tell Lisa's very emotional. And this is where I think it's rough. It's played really well, and the script is performed well. I really, really connected to Ike's character, Ike Barinholtz's character at this, because this is where he goes into this emotional, like, outpour.
You guys abandoned me. You never asked for my side of the story.
Like, and we get his side.
And then he says, like, here's where I'm at with this whole thing. Says that the relationship had fallen apart well before he cheated.
Yes.
And that his wife was cheating on him, too. And so it was just like, okay, fine, I guess this is where we're at. And so, but he ends up cheating on her, and things fall apart.
And he's basically hoping that he could use this night to get his daughter back.
Get back into his daughter. Because he left her because he said, I didn't want to make it hard on her, so I stepped back. And
he's like, I was going to give her some time, but then it turned out to be too much time, and then she was gone.
Yeah.
It's a really, really strong monologue by a very comedic actor who it's believable, and then sure enough, they ignore it.
Drop it, yeah.
They're like, oh, I know where we can figure out where to go next. And you're like, it's funny because he's like, not going to respond? No. It was just good to say it. Like,
it was good to hear myself. It was good to hear myself say it.
And so, again, they really don't want to go down the road of exploring Hunter or Sam.
No.
They tease and then pull it back.
They continue to treat Ike like they have been treating Ike the entire movie.
Exactly.
As just a third wheel on their quest to protect their daughters.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's, they started out that way, and it really becomes that almost the whole time.
And I thought that was going to be the turning point where they were going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, and they don't.
No, they're like, oh no, we go back to Austin's house because he texts his parents all the things.
Yeah, we'll know. We'll be able to find out because Austin is clearly telling his parents where they're at.
Which this is probably one of the best scenes in the movie when we get back to Austin's house. Cena goes in and he breaks into climbs in through the window, and it's dark and he's looking for like the phone to see if maybe he can find it, and immediately you see the mom walking blindfolded behind him
in like lingerie.
Yeah, and the Ike and Leslie Mann, they see her. Cena does not. He goes down to the end of the hallway.
They try and gesture like, "Hey, she's in there."
Yeah,
and he's like,
"What? No,
what are you talking about?" Like,
yeah. And then he turns around and the dad's there. The dad is completely naked except for the blindfold,
very nude.
And essentially he figures out, okay, they're here, and because they start talking, it's no longer silent. They're here and they're trying to. They're kind of doing this like naked exploration, like find us by your musk.
Yes.
Which I'm like, oh man. And so he hides in the kitchen, and you have this like Jurassic Park moment. They do.
It was so funny.
And yeah, you see the dad walking like down by the side of the sink, and then they even show a glass of water with every step.
John Cena's like hiding under the island, like just hoping, breathing heavily. It gets real quiet,
and
steps real loud. He
gets to the end. He turns around. The light from the phone goes off, and Cena turns his head to a face full of old man penis.
Yep. Lots of junk.
Lots of junk. And I expected him to almost have like the like turn and actually like hit him in the face with it, because I thought that it felt like that's what they were going with it.
Yes.
But he just sees it, and then basically he gets trapped. He gets cornered between the two, who think that he's like, I'm gonna get you, and then all of a sudden Barinholtz comes up and smacks the mom on the butt, and she's like, oh, so it kind of like distraction. Mm-hmm. But now you have two people who are not supposed to be in a house, and two people who don't know that two people are in the house. And this is a hilarity ensues, essentially.
Yes.
Which I love this scene. So essentially you have Ike takes his shirt off for her to scratch him, but then Cena has to scratch the dad, Austin's dad. And she's like, oh, and she's like, you want me to grab your balls? And Cena's like, no, I don't.
Not doing it.
And the subtitles were awesome. Because you don't have subtitles in the movie anywhere. But they're basically...
being quiet and they're mouthing to each other and they subtitle the whole thing.
Except for inaudible or like unclear. He's like, he's saying like, my brother's gay. Because Ike...
And he's my best friend. And my divorce lawyer's gay and he's my best friend, and unclear.
Yeah.
And it's him and his partner and then blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and they blah, 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 blah. And they're like this, and he like does the crossing the fingers. He's like, well, actually, no, it's like, and we're like this. He's like, no, they're like this, and it's like me over here.
And he's got his pinky
and
up.
It's like, oh no, man. It took me a second. It wasn't an immediate reaction of like, oh man, that's funny.
Yes.
But then she does grab Ike's balls, and he's like, oh,
I can't feel it.
He's like, I don't feel anything. So Cena needs to, and Cena doesn't. I don't think he does.
It's unclear.
It's unclear. Because we do see a handful of squeezed balls.
Very aggressively squeezed balls.
And if you haven't seen a movie theater screen size pair of testicles being squeezed, and you want to,
this is the movie for you.
Go see Blockers. About a little over halfway through the movie, you will get that. It's like seeing Titanic for the first time. And seeing because I remember that was my first nude scene in a movie, and I was like, oh my god. We were in the front row too, so it was even more. This is before the front row act. Like when you were in the front row, it was like you had to lean back as far as you could. You can be in the front row and be okay now. It's not the best, but yeah. So that happened. And then they jump away from it. And they're like, okay, we figured out where they're at. And Ike's like, yeah, I really don't like the what they got going on. He's like, I'm all for exploration, but
that's weird.
Yeah. I thought was great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So they figure out, hey, the kids are going to the hotel, which we did hear that they were going to go to as they were leaving the lake house, because Angelica says, hey, no, I can't come with you.
My car's here. I gotta get my friends places, but I'm going to be at this hotel party.
So the hotel party is kind of our last major sequence. I think let's talk about it in 3 parts. Let's kind of break down each, because once the kids get to the hotel, their stories don't intersect anymore.
No,
so
they diverge basically up until,
So which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's do it in the order that they kind of develop in. So let's talk about Cena's daughter.
Okay. So Kayla, she goes in, and she immediately, to kind of build up what she does and what happens later with Julie, she goes into the same room that, like one of the party rooms.
Yeah.
And is talking to Austin about, hey, like, how's she doing? Talking about Julie, because she's had a huge fight with her mom, and she's like, she doesn't even want to kiss me. And I love kissing. It's like, such a high school boy thing to say.
He was like the most just emotionally available high school boy in the world.
It's funny because like I was laughing like when they're at the lake house, and he was saying everything you would expect a high school guy trying to get some to say.
Yes.
Like, oh, you just look so pretty right now.
But it was all genuine.
And he meant it. He wasn't. Yeah,
it was not. He was not trying to get in her pants per se. He was just being a good guy.
Absolutely.
And
I agree to that.
We missed the bit when they're going through his phone, his text messages. All the parents are going through his text messages, and he's telling his parents, he's like, "I almost lost my flower, but something got in the way, so we're going to the hotel."
Ike, who said he's a boy, isn't he? Like,
yes.
Which I'm like, there you go. Just as soon as we think Lockers is making some social advancents, and they throw
in that.
But and that was funny. He's like, I'm a boy almost about to be a man. And you're just like, okay, well, that's a weird familial relationship. Yeah. Not one that I can say that I've had. But yeah, they so she goes and gets his room key, says she's going to set some stuff up, and then she
goes, sets up the way it's been described, the perfect night, and gets it ready.
And then she goes off to a room with Connor
and finds Connor.
And while this is going on, Cena's busting into rooms. And I wish that we would have seen more rooms.
Yes, because they were all just little vignettes of just a little joke here, just a little joke here.
I think we only saw 2 rooms.
There was a few. There were only 2 like really memorable ones. Because there was the one where they were like all naked, squirting each other with squirt guns. Yeah. And then there was the cult sitting in a pentagram.
And then he yells, "Play some sports!"
Yes.
You guys need to play sports. But then, the rest of them, I don't remember.
The rest of them were just either not shown or just generic. Like, these are high schoolers at the party.
And he just bust into rooms, Kayla. And essentially, as he's doing that, we jump back and forth. We get back to Kayla, and she immediately starts having some second thoughts, which is funny because of all the 3, she's the one who is the most forward about it, at least with Connor.
And we skipped it, but at the school, they get there and she's like, "I want a drink." And he's like, "Let me go get you one." And she's like, "No, I want a drink." And he pulls out a flask, and then they go outside, and they're talking, and she takes a swig, and she's like, "I want you to know I'm going to have sex with you tonight." And like his reaction is,
he's deflecting.
We'll see what happens.
Wherever the night takes us, it's going to take your penis into my vagina. I was like, not even like she has no fear. Just. No. Blunt, this is how it's going to happen.
And I thought that was going to be a bigger deal, is that he's not, like, he's deflecting this whole thing. He's like, he's not saying no, but he's not saying yes.
Yeah.
And then they get to the hotel room, and he's like, yeah, okay, let's do it.
All right. And he's all for it. And so she kind of becomes a little bit more unclear. But it's not that she doesn't want to. She just kind of wants it to be a little bit more special than just randomly grabbing somebody.
Yes. And she makes a joke about it, saying, I want to at least get to know you more than a day, so like let's say Monday.
Yeah.
You want to pencil it in?
Yeah. And it's a cool moment because it's really how you kind of hope that a lot of these situations go. Like people don't feel pressured to do it, and it's just like this is kind of how it happened.
Communicated. He was fine. He didn't pressure her. In fact, she was like, "I want something."
Yeah.
And like makes him go down on her. And
the line before the cut, "You got this.
You got this."
It's like, oh shit. And then we have some more, but we'll stick with this storyline. Sure. So eventually Cena does break into that room. They have finished whatever they were doing.
They're just kind of cuddling, making out. And he grabs Connor and throws him against the wall.
A part of me thinks that there are probably some like wires involved, but the part of me is like, it's John Cena. He probably picked the guy up and threw him.
He threw him against the wall. Like, it was very much a, wow, that kid's hurt throw.
Well, and they made a big deal about it because he said twice, he's like, I'm actually okay. Like, did you expect him to be like passed out?
Yeah, you shouldn't be okay after getting thrown into a wall as hard as he got thrown.
And they even said like, well, later Cena says like, I threw Connor through a wall. And yeah, he did. He just chucked him.
It was a little awkward how they handled the aftermath of that. How okay his daughter was with the fact that he busted in, and threw this kid against the wall.
Yeah, like, why are you here? And he's like, I'm here because you can't. And it was a very quick calming down.
Yes, it immediately transitioned into father-daughter conversation of her like confronting him, being like, "This is insane. You raised me to protect myself. Mm-hmm. Why can't I make those? You raised me to make these smart decisions, and you're saying I can't make those smart decisions."
Exactly. Which that kind of, I mean, that was one of those things that he was very worried about the whole time. He didn't think that he even said at one point, I've spent every waking moment preparing her for life. Mm-hmm. She can't have it be ruined.
Yes.
Which should have given away that she would be ready for this when time came, because he spent so much time.
Right.
So they have their heart to heart and basically say like, you know, you've like you said, you've done everything to prepare me for this moment, and I'm fine. So their story kind of ends on like just you got to trust me, and he's like, and I will.
Yes.
And then we jump to was it Sam next?
It was Les. It might have been Sam, but that's the storyline that wraps up last.
Okay, so let's go to Julie, and I'm very pleased to jump into this one. So Lisa comes. Lisa comes down the hallway as Kayla is leaving the room. So she sneaks in,
prepping it.
Yeah. So she sneaks in, and she comes to a realization fairly quickly that like, what am I doing here? Right. She starts seeing all this.
This is obviously very sweet. They're not. This isn't just some crappy romance. Like, they obviously care about each other. Like, blah blah blah. Has this like, my daughter's an adult essentially, can make decisions.
And as soon as she makes that realization, she gets ready to leave, and they come in. And, which you kind of knew this was going to happen.
It had to happen.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was not. It was telegraphed. Absolutely.
Yes.
So they come in, and Julie sees everything, and she's like, "Oh, this is so great. This is so special." And they start kissing on the bed, and we see underneath the bed,
pan down.
Yep. There's Lisa. And she's like, "Oh shit. Yes. Like, this is not good.
I'm about to be under the bed while my daughter loses her virginity."
And all of a sudden, Julie stops kissing. She's like, I want to dance to our song.
Yeah.
Which they start playing the song, and it's during this, because she had said earlier that how she saw it going down, where it's like they were just going to spend a lot of time just looking at
each other.
And that's
each other's faces.
Yeah, for like, she's like, oh, and even later when she asks, like, I want you to just look at me. It's like for 3 minutes and 37 seconds, the length of the song apparently.
Right.
She's like, yeah, which was a good callback because it wasn't obvious that like that's why they needed to stare at each other for Lisa to get out.
Right.
But somehow, without she ninjas her way
to the curtains.
We can't even get through this. And I was laughing for like 10 minutes after this. She gets herself to the curtains. And they start, like, Austin looks over and she's like, no, keep looking at me. And by that time, the curtains aren't moving as much. She walks behind the TV.
And she, like, looks over and, like, sees them having this nice moment. And she kind of gets aw. Goes back behind the TV. And then gets shocked. Like, there's a, like, electric shock. There's
it's a real flash.
Shock. And it was so dumb.
But the best part, she drops to her knees and she's shaking.
I don't know why it was so funny.
It was all in her reaction.
Just came out of nowhere, and she gets shocked, and she's kneeling there shaking like.
I think it was because you have this sweet moment, and you have this realization of her, like, oh, they love each other. And then she gets like...
It's out of nowhere, the comedy. Some dumb slapstick.
And it was, to me, it was the shaking. It was like...
Sure.
She almost like hurled and then like went to her knees. Like her arms were shaking.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That was so funny. To me, I think that was my biggest... I genuinely couldn't stop
that
laughing.
one, and then we didn't mention it, but when they were going to go try and get the car flipped back over, it explodes.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Just, yeah.
And that, just the, like, sheer... Both of these moments just coming out of nowhere or getting caught off.
You just don't expect... And I think that's what it was, is you expect them...
Both of those got audible laughs from me.
Oh my god. That was... I want to just, at some point, go find that scene again and just watch it over and over. Her getting electrocuted. And the cool thing is with this, it's the only of the three relationships, it's the only one that doesn't get any FaceTime as closure. At least there.
Yes.
It's we get the closure like the 3 months later after everything goes down. Yes. She literally leaves. She lets her mom go and do Lisa lets Julie go and have her moment.
Right. And I think that's probably a good decision, because the whole point is that they have been together the entire time.
Yeah.
And the whole closure of that arc would bring them back together would probably undercut it.
Yeah. So she leaves the room. She goes down to the bar and she sees the other two. So then we have Sam. Sam's in the room with Chad. Chad's on top of her and kissing her and like giving her like
little
mwah kisses. She's like mwah
on the cheek
mwah.
And moving up to like the nose, and it's disgusting.
It's so awkward, and it was meant to be.
Yes.
It's how you would expect first time high schoolers like to deal with this, and she's playing through the Angelica conversation. Mm-hmm. She's like, all right, I need to touch it. I need to know. Yeah. And she touches it, and he freaks out. Like, that's the best feeling in the world.
Is it?
And she's like, it's not like just like a cold, dry hand from a friend. Like, he's like, nope, nope, not at all.
And he asks, "Do you want to put it in?" And she decides no.
Yes, and in the moment she's like, "No, I'm just not." And he
accepts it, but he also proceeds to ejaculate.
He's like, I'm so sorry. And she's laughing.
She laughs.
So it's one of those moments that it could have gone two ways. She could have been absolutely disgusted.
Yeah.
But she's not, which is cool. But for me, it's not that moment. It's he like in like post coitus lays back and like tired. He reaches over, grabs his fedora, puts it on his head. And you're like, the fucking fedora. Of course he grabs the fedora. Yep. So he grabs the fedora and we cut away. And eventually we come back to
Ike. Busts into the room.
He gets into the room, yeah, and
because he has seen Chad, and it gets him angry.
Yeah, and Chad's got like this air about him, like Chad's playing this cool guy because Chad's basic. Well, he did something that Chad wouldn't get to do,
right? Yes.
And so I bust into the room, and there's just like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't want you to have to do anything you didn't want to. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't say in any way, shape, or form that alludes to the idea that he might think that she's gay, which I think was important. Right. They had to make sure that it wasn't an obvious moment. But he sits her down and basically just kind of opens up to her.
Yeah, he explains where he's at.
He apologizes. Said, I should have been there more for you. And that draws her into. She hasn't not seen this side of her dad before.
Right.
She asks if she can tell him something, and she's like, yes, absolutely, tell me something. Like, please. And she comes out to him. And, he has a great reaction to it. And you're like, yeah, like, that's great. How did your mom react? And, I haven't told mom. And then he just starts weeping.
Yes.
Which it was funny because of his reaction, but then he realizes she did something that's something they can share now.
Yes. Right. He matters to her. He's not just a secondary person in her life now.
Yeah. And they talk and he calms down. He's like, can I get a picture? And he looks at her. He gets the phone out because this guy
just staring at her, and she's like, what?
He's like, you're not taking it. And he puts the phone away. He's like, I'm going to remember this. Which is a really cool, like, because they had been talking about the picture throughout the movie.
He's always trying to get pictures.
And so it's cool, like he's just going to live in the moment. He's going to accept, like, this is not going to be the last time that they are able to be in the same area.
Yes.
which was really cool. And that's the one that I think was the best because both characters grew exponentially.
Yes.
Throughout the movie and at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
And then she proceeds to go back out into the party area.
Mm-hmm.
She comes out to her friends.
Mm-hmm.
They accept her because, of course, they're awesome people. They all share what happened with their individual experiences.
Yep.
And we see Angelica.
Yep.
The girls see Angelica, and then they're like, "Oh, bye."
Yeah.
They get it. Instant recognition as to what is happening. They read the room perfectly. Angelica walks up, and Sam's just like, "Am I reading this right?"
Yeah.
And Angelica just kisses her, and it's adorable.
It's like, aw. If I'm not mistaken, then they're dancing basically at the end, and that's the end of that, and they do 3 months later.
Yes.
So the girls are basically. It seems like they had like one last breakfast before sending the girls off to California. They're all Connor, Kayla, and Sam are driving Julie to school, and then when they come back, they're gonna come back. And so they say their goodbyes, and this was weird for me. It was funny, but you have the closure that we didn't get between Julie and Lisa because they hadn't talked.
Right.
And she's like, "I'm fine. I'm great. Things are great. I've never been. I'm actually going to be okay." And as she's saying all this, Lisa's got tears streaming down her face,
just pouring.
But were they CGI?
They had to have been.
Okay.
That was an incredible amount of tears. That was for someone to just be producing.
But like, I even think like maybe they would have found a way to like drop. I don't know.
It was a
lot of tears.
They looked really good.
They did look
CGI,
pretty real.
Looked like tears.
And it's funny because she knows that she's upset. Like, but she's gonna miss her. She's not mad or really upset. And so they get away. She's like, "Let me take a video," and the movie kind of ends very similarly to how it begins.
Yes, they have the like phone home movie.
Yep.
Vertical screen. Mm-hmm. The black bars come in from the side,
which I think is really cool. Like nowadays, like you can just have that and you know exactly what
you get
it is.
It's like that's a cell phone video.
Yep.
And so they talk about that, and then Connor's there, and then they drive away.
And something too is very subtle, but Cena says like, "Take care of her, Connor." Like precious cargo. He's accepted Connor, which is kind of a cool, very subtle thing there. And then the phone starts going off again, and I'm like, "Oh, we don't need a sequel." Like I thought it was going to be.
Oh, I totally thought it was too. I was like, "Why are they doing this?"
So it felt like they were going to have a sequel because they're like, "Oh no parents, no rules." It's a group text that she was in on, Lisa was. And then eventually they're like, just kidding. And it gets really, like, serious. They're, like, talking about, like...
drugs.
Major drugs.
All the crazy crap they're going to be doing.
Hashtag no condoms. Like, why would you hashtag that?
Why would you hashtag that?
But then they send it, like, love you guys, just kidding, we're messing with you. And that's it.
That fade the credits.
Yep. And then almost immediately we get a mid-credit scene. Which, I mean... I did say we saw a lot of Cena's ass, and we've only referred to one, so you guys are probably like, where else did you see Cena's ass?
More of Cena's ass.
Mid-credit scene. That's where we did. Oh my god. And it was like...
so much of
it's like
Cena's
they were
ass.
waiting for it, because it's like, oh yeah, no, we're going to pan and zoom, almost. And they were walking through the house, and they're playing the blindfolded exploration game.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're walking around, and they eventually find each other. They're like, oh yeah, okay.
I'm gonna do you and blah blah blah, and then the daughter walks in.
Kayla walks in, screams, Mom screams, Cena screams.
Cut to black.
And there we go.
Back to credits.
So yeah, that wraps up the plot there. So I thought it was a funny ending. I think I almost wish they would have had some more. I wish they would have had bloopers because this is one of those where I can expect between Barinholtz and Cena. Oh my god, the bloopers alone had to have been amazing.
Yeah.
So I will be waiting for those on the Blu-ray. Okay, so. Let's look at a couple. We already talked about one of the questions I had with our favorite moments, our funniest. But let's look at one we haven't done for a few weeks. Character that you wanted to see more of. It doesn't have to be one you didn't see enough of, but you wanted more of, or one that you just didn't see enough of, and you wanted to see some more screen time.
Yes, I would like to. I didn't get enough of Frank, Hannibal Buress' character.
Yeah,
and not from a funny standpoint, but from. He was clearly the most put together and sane of the influences on Sam's life.
Yeah.
Like, he was going to be he was a nice guy, super friendly, was genuine, seemed like a good individual, and the mom undercut him at every turn.
Very quickly, too.
Yes. Yeah. And I would have loved to see more of him and get to see his interactions with the daughter, with Sam.
Yeah, that would have definitely rounded out. I mean, I still feel like both Sam and Hunter had really good character development, probably the best of the entire movie, but yes. I still would have liked more.
More would have been great.
More would have been
more
awesome.
Sam would have been awesome.
I'm going to go with Cena just because this movie was marketed around the fact that he was in it, and I think they played him up very well. I think we could have gotten maybe more of the drunk from the butt chug or something. I loved him in it, but I thought he was hilarious. I would have liked to see him.
He is impressively funny. And
have you seen Daddy's Home 2?
I've not seen that.
Oh, he's in that, and he's funny in that too. He's in it more because at the end of Daddy's Home 1, he ends up being like the other stepdad. He's there for he's a quick cameo, 10-second cameo, but then he becomes a little bit more
of a figure.
Yeah, he's one of the other characters, and
gotcha.
He's pretty funny in that. Okay, so let's start to wrap it up. So your final thoughts on the movie, and then let's give it a 1 to 5 ranking scale. Let's go with ass beers. So 1 to 5 ass beers. 1 to 5 ass beers. And your final thoughts.
All right. If I gotta rank it, I'm gonna go like 3.5, 4 ass beers. As far as comedies go, it's really funny. It's very traditional, very just mainstream comedy. It's not gonna change anyone's life. But there were jokes. I laughed. I got my money's worth out of it. And I think it did a really good job of like taking the best bits out of a like adult romp and this teenage coming of age movie. Like they're trying to be like a new American Pie, and I think they maybe kind of did that. And so I thought it was really good. And very progressive, very in a surprising way, was very progressive and had a lot of good things to say about the state of adolescence in America.
Yeah, they really hit on a lot of big issues, and they really didn't try to focus too hard on. They just hit on.
It was just in there. They weren't trying to beat you over the head with it. They weren't trying to make. Yeah. They were just, this is the way the world is, and we need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm also going to give it a 3.5 ass beers. Let's say I'll give it a 4 ass beers, and then the cops show up, so then it's only 3.5. We lose a half a beer. No, I liked it a lot. It was really funny. I think it would have been higher if the trailers hadn't given away so much.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of one of those things that I really try to stay away from trailers if possible, especially with comedies, because that's the only thing. They can't tease something big happening because it's a comedy. Right. So really, if I see one, I don't like Action Point, I'm gonna go see it. I don't need to see any more. I don't want them to give away all the jokes.
Right.
And so there were a few that I knew were coming, and they didn't. Sometimes trailers switch it up, like they give you something, but that's not in the movie.
Right.
We got a lot of it, so I thought it was really well done. As you'd mentioned, the flow between all of these different things, as well as the teen adolescents coming of age, and then the adult comedy, they did a really good job blending it. And with as many different storylines together, it felt like it flowed pretty well. So,
absolutely.
So 3.5 out of me as well. So that wraps us up. Nathan, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That was a good time. We'll have to get you on here soon again.
Absolutely.
Next week, guys, I will not be dropping an episode next Thursday. I'm going to be out of town this upcoming weekend, so I'm not going to have any time to see anything. So in the meantime, you guys can always go back and check out some of the more recent episodes. We've got 24 episodes now. This is number 24. And so the week after that, if you've been following your calendar, you'll know that one is going to be our Infinity War episode. It is coming out. I will be dropping on I believe the Thursday, May 3rd, if I'm not mistaken on my days, but it's that Thursday. And we'll have the Infinity War episode coming out then. Stick tuned for any information on that. We may have something special coming up for you with that 25th episode. We got all the way to 25, so I want to do something cool. But yeah, and again, as always, in the meantime, you can reach me on Twitter at Drive-In-Eventide, or send me some emails if you need to reach me there. It is driveineventide@gmail.com. So as always, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We will see you guys next time. Until then, drive home safe.